DogWorks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dogworks. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com.
Start your day tomorrow with The Daily Dog with Michelle Forto, the morning podcast on DogWorks Radio. Apple Podcast reviewer Patty Christensen calls it funny, smart, and filled with all the info I want to know about dogs. I love this show. Wake up with The Daily Dog. Available on DogWorks Radio on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your shows.
Radio Free Palmer 89.5 KVRF presents Mushing Radio, hosted by Probert Erhart. Mushing Radio is about dog-powered sports, living in the Great White North, and mushing. Visit our website at mushingradio.com. Here is your host, Probert Erhart.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Probert Erhart, and you're listening to Mushing Radio here on KVRF 89.7 in the Matsu Valley. RadioFreePalmer.org is our live streaming site, and you can find us on social media and on Apple Podcasts. Just search for DogWorks Radio. And I am joined today by Jennifer Probert Erhart. She's calling in from Fairbanks, Alaska. She operates Pro Dog Racing Kennels on Facebook, and she is a sprint musher along with her family. Jennifer, how's it going?
Great. How are you doing?
I am fine, thank you. We spoke, I guess it was a couple of years ago now, about your guys' family kennel and what you guys are up to, but can you introduce yourself and tell us what you're all about, please?
Okay. So my name is Jennifer Probert Erhart. My husband is Carl Erhart. And we, along with our kids, operate a sprint racing kennel out of Fairbanks. We're based out of Fairbanks. My roots go back to Tok, Alaska, and my husband's roots go back to Tanana, Alaska. But our personal kennel here is based out of Fairbanks. We do sprint, and we specialize in the limited class sprint. And each year we're always talking about wanting to race open class, but just because of kids and dogs and schedules, we sometimes pull back and just stick with the limited class. So that's kind of
I know exactly how that is, having kids there with the mushing thing. It makes things difficult, but it also makes things very interesting because they also get to help around the dog yard and possibly run a team. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, and they're the best handlers. So if the kids are there at the race with us, that is the ideal situation for us because they know the dogs really well. The kids that are with us most of the time are, there's 3 girls, their ages 12, 12, and 15, and then my son is 21. So all of those kids are very familiar with the dogs. They're very good handlers. They all race their own teams as well. So those are our ideal handlers. And sometimes with limited class races, I might be in one division, and then the next class is starting before the other class is finished. So they're like handlers for both of our teams, and like I said, they're real familiar with the dogs, so they know what to do and not do. And when you're trying to stay focused, those are the best handlers to have as our kids.
Of course, for sure. Jennifer, before we get too far into this, I first have to congratulate you on your bronze medal win just this past weekend at the ISDRA, I guess it's the international conference that was held up here in Anchorage. They had folks from all over come up and receive some awards at a really cool, not only banquet, but also a day of talks and a symposium and whatnot. So congrats for that. You won the bronze medal in the 6-dog class, and your husband won the bronze medal in the 8-dog class. Can you tell us a little bit about what it took to get that kind of award with that very elite company in the mushing world?
So there's a fairly complex point system to garnering a medal, and so some of it's based on weather and who's able to even host races, and what clubs sanction races within that organization. And so the point system has a lot of different factors in it. How many racers are participating in the race? What's the prize money? Who are the racers participating? Where you've placed in that race? There's a whole bunch of different factors. And so not this season, but the previous season, we raced our 6-dog team, and it did well. And I started racing the team, and I did good, but then I had some health issues, and so I couldn't race the team. So then my son raced that 6-dog team in Exxon, and he won. And then he was in the middle of the, or not Exxon, he was doing the Eagle River Championship. That's the one, sorry. And he won that one, and then he was in the middle of what used to be known as Exxon, and now they call it the ASDRA Championship. And there was the night of, he was either sitting in first or second place, and that evening of the first day, he went to play basketball, and he got injured real bad. So then Carl took over the team, and Carl's the tallest of all of us, so not the automatic jockey for a limited class race. And so he took over the team, and he still did really well. But what ended up happening was the points aren't garnered for the team. They are tracked by person. So even though the dog team did well throughout the season, that 6-dog team of ours, we didn't get any medal or anything because we distributed points between 3 of us. So last year, Carl did get the bronze medal in the 8-dog division, as well as he did again in this season. But so last year, I said, we're not going to do that. If we can all avoid, it was great that we all were able to share the team, and, it was good training and all of that. But if we're going to go for a medal, we have to kind of decide in the beginning of the season who's going to run what team and what race, because you sort of shoot yourself in the foot by sharing the team, so to speak. So we had decided that, and then last fall I got real sick, and I had pneumonia for it was 2, almost 3 months, really bad. So I didn't train the team at all. I was just really, really ill, and so Carl trained the team. And then when it came race time, I basically just hopped on the sled. So last season, I didn't put a lot of fall season training in. But, folks know that if you've ever had a kennel, it's not just during race season that you work. So I put in work year-round, but I felt a little, kind of bummed that I couldn't train my team, but I was fortunate that my husband could train that team for me. And then they did well. So I was really happy with their performance, considering all of our little personal quirks in the middle of that. But that was a goal that we had focused on and set our sights on, and like our race schedule based around that. Early on.
And Jennifer, you had said that it's definitely a community effort. It's sort of everybody pitches in and does their part when you talk about having a family mushing kennel. How does it? My first question with that is, how do they like having you guys doing so well? The younger ones I'm talking about the most. Do they even quite understand that you guys are doing this and you're doing great compared to the competition throughout the country? You guys are winning medals and stuff. Do they understand that level of the competition just at 12 years old?
Yes and no. I mean, one of the kids, my youngest, we're a blended family, so my youngest competes in competitive sports also. And so we've traveled to Orlando and Portland twice, for her sport. So she understands, like higher level competition, international, or, levels of competition outside of just not only our state or our town,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There's lots of, I guess there's lots of trophies around the house, and sometimes, when kids have friends come over, they kind of show that, but I don't think that they really focus on that part of it. They just really like the dog.
Care. They just right. They might not even care about it. They're just there. They're doing their part, and they're sort of a part of the collective whole, so to speak, and they just enjoy being part of that. So my next question, Jennifer, is at the awards banquet, you guys were when you were standing up there talking, you had mentioned that it's tough to even get to an event like that because you had kids in basketball that same day, and I believe you were facing some kennel chores that you had to worry about, and the typical life of a family dog mushing kennel. It's not easy, is it, to be able to sort of pack up and move around on a short notice, is it?
No. It doesn't matter. If it's in the wintertime, we can load up the dogs and go to a race, but that means kids will miss some school. Do they go with you? Do they not go with you? Who do they stay with if they don't go with you? That's one whole season, right? And then if it's in the summertime, we don't really want to pack the dogs around in the summertime because it's hot and we don't want to put them in the boxes. But my husband works for the fire service, and so he's gone a lot in the summer. And so it's difficult to find somebody to stay with the dogs at the kennel and the house. There's challenges there. And then we've kind of switched our kennel setup. So we were on swivels and chains, and now we're all in kennel systems. So good and bad to all of that. There's pros and cons. Right. It's just like dog box on the truck or dog box on the trailer. There is as many reasons why it's great as there are that it's a challenge. And so you have to find somebody who is. That? Yeah, definitely.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
Can we talk about that for a minute? That's sort of the the buzz around social media in the last couple of weeks. I know that the Seavies had went to that non-tethering system. They have some type of pins and runs and all that. You are my first guest that's on that has mentioned something like that, where you're doing the runs versus the tethers. What made the switch? Is it easier? Is it better for the dogs, do you think? What are your thoughts behind it?
What was the main reason behind the switch?
Yes.
You're going to laugh. It was the butterflies.
Okay.
And the reason why was because something is naturally occurring in our property. And I know butterflies are attracted to the water and like even things like dog poop and stuff like that. But there's something naturally occurring on the property there that before there were even dogs, the butterflies loved something that would seep up from that area. So those large yellow monarch butterflies, I would have like 100 of them in this patch, in this area in the backyard. And so the dogs love these butterflies. And last summer, I had a terrible time I've got a young group. They're now, in the end of August, they're going to be 3. And they have loved these butterflies more than any other group of dogs I've had. And every single day, I would go to work, and then I would come home, and at lunchtime to check on the dogs, and there would, nearly every day, 9 times out of 10, there would be a loose dog, broken chain, and it's trying to get after the butterflies. So we converted because they still the butterflies still get them pretty excited, and they still run around like in their runs. But if one dog happens to get out somehow, which they do, then we still have the entire property fenced in also. So they still have more layers of fencing to get out, to get like away from our property or out to the road or anything like that. But we also, it's safer. So if say I come home at lunch and somebody's gotten out of the kennel, there's not like dogs haven't gotten in a fight or anything like that because everybody else is still in a kennel. There's not one dog with a half of a chain or a piece of rebar dragging behind it that's gotten tangled up with something. And, so I mean, one time a dog got loose last summer, and its chain was dragging and hooked to my chair on my deck, and proceeded to destroy every flower and thing I had in the garden with that chair he was
oh my goodness.
dragging behind him. So there's always like these challenges, right? And it's been a challenge, like in the wintertime, with the snow inside the kennel. We had a lot of snow last winter, so that was different. It's nice in that, they're not like running around. Like sometimes dogs tend to run in a certain direction in their circle, and they could get like a neck issue, or you know what I mean? Or maybe a wrist issue on one side, or like rub their collar or something like that, from that motion. And we don't get that with the kennels. But I was reading some of the stuff where some of the comments people had, and you can't just like walk through the kennel and just reach and touch different dogs and play with them. And we had where dogs could kind of reach each other and they could play, and all that's good, but you kind of have to have one or the other. And I've got some great escape artists. So there's like 3 out of the 19 that I have back there that are really good at figuring stuff out.
Dogs will be dogs, won't they? No matter what they're doing, and whether they're chasing each other or chasing butterflies, we have to figure out a way to make it work, don't we?
Correct, yes.
So can we go back to something you said at the start of the show when you talked about having sort of the family as handlers? And Jennifer, most people that listen to this show are Iditarod fans, Yukon Quest, distance type mushing fans. So they don't know as much about sprint mushing as the longer races. And you had mentioned that in a sprint race, and I'm very familiar with this, that there's only a few minutes between, say, the 4-dog class and the 6-dog class and the 8-dog class, or you may have a couple of teams in each class, and it's very difficult to get Team A to the line and then Team B, then potentially Team C. Can you describe sort of that controlled chaos of what it's like on a sprint race day, especially when you have several teams entering in really quick succession?
Okay, so like let's say, for example, Carl and I are both racing on the same day, and I'm in the 6-dog class, and that division starts at 11 o'clock, and he's in the 8-dog class, and that division starts at 12 o'clock. Well, prior to 11 o'clock, there's a few things that happen with both of those teams. We typically water them, it's an hour and a half to 2 hours prior to racing. So his hour and a half to 2 hours is going to be different than mine because we start at different times. We also have to calculate in the position that we start in. So I may have drawn number 1, and so I would leave at 11 o'clock. And then if he draws, like 10, and it's 2-minute intervals, he's leaving at 12:20. So that's 20 more minutes that we have to factor in. So there's the prior watering of the 2 separate teams, and then after they've been watered and you've gotten to the track, and we typically like to get to the track an hour before the race, which would be an hour before the first one, so we get there at 10, and then that's ends up being like a couple hours before his race, and actually 2 hours and 20 minutes before his race. And so then my dogs will need to be let out of the box soon because they've been watered first. And then they need to get put back. And then we let them out to use the bathroom and then put them back in the box so that they don't get too overly excited. And then we let them out, again, just like 20 minutes prior to when my start time would be, to start putting any ointments on their feet, putting their harnesses on, doing any last stretches or evaluations of them. And then now we're going to be starting to hook in our team almost when it's going to be the time that his team now needs to get let out to make their first pee break, right? So the staggered times, and sometimes we can just do it all at the same time, but so you kind of always have to be watching and checking, and when they take those breaks, we need to make sure that all of those dogs have used the bathroom. They pretty much will pee, but you need to make sure everybody's pooped. And then that's the same thing, like with communicating with everybody, like, did you see if so-and-so pooped? Or we're talking like, okay, yep, Chief pooped. All right, okay, good. Yep, they all did. Did you see so-and-so? Yep, okay, they did. All right, so all of these guys have peed and pooped. They can go back. Now, let the other guys out, you know. So it's constant like that. And then when we go out, we typically go out in 2-minute intervals. And so again, depending on how long that particular race is or how long the track is, we run under a 3-minute mile. So you can just average, you can just do that math and say, oh, if it's a 10-mile race, it's going to be like 30 minutes when she's back, maybe a little bit more. So you can even base that on when should we be expecting her, or when should we be expecting to put the bowls out, to put the water out, to get ready for when they come in and water them after they run. Because when it's colder, you don't want to put that water out too soon because it'll get frozen. And then so I could be like, have gone out and be my 30 minutes after I've gone out. So like I gave the example that I drew first and he drew like 10th. Now what if I drew 10th and he drew first? Now our start times are even closer together. So I literally could be finishing right when his team is starting. So if he has the kids there to help him get up to the line too, you know, and get all that stuff. And then the kids are there to catch me when I come across the line and have the bowls ready. And, you know, I mean, it's not like something that we couldn't do without the kids, but by having that group of people who are familiar with the dogs and our system, it is very helpful because those turnaround times can be real quick.
They can. You know, I've been to a sprint race, as you mentioned, where let's say my wife and I are running in an 8-dog team, and we're literally going out in like 5th and 6th position. And it's just so tough, even if you just have one kid there, to try to get 2 teams set up and ready to the line so both mom and dad can run. And it's just a very interesting part of sprint mushing that I don't think a lot of people have seen or quite understand. But it's almost like NASCAR, where everything just has to be in place. The pit crew has to be rocking and rolling. The communication has to be perfect. Otherwise, it's going to really change up not only the race strategy, but maybe even the outcome of the race. Do you agree?
Oh, yes, definitely. We do, like the night before, we'll bring in all of the lines to thaw out and everything. And so we already know who's going to be racing which dogs. And we have that already mapped out. And so we know like what size harness fits those dogs and which tug line I'm going to be using. So, or which set I'm going to be using, you know. So we would put on a carabiner, like my 6 harnesses and my whole tow line setup. And so that's all one unit. And then the same thing with his. So then when we take out this stuff, it's already together and not like guessing things or whatever. Now sometimes there's a size of a harness that we need to use a repeat, but we try not to do that because you know, again, like if we're racing in the same division, we obviously can't do that. But the more we can have lined up and set out and checked, the better. And that's why I say we get to the racetrack an hour before, so we get everything set out, we get it all lined out, we get it all set up, because our sleds, you know, they're all folded up and put away and disassembled, so we have to reassemble everything and then make sure. So, you know, we help each other out, but because I'm racing that sled and that's my team, I do my last check on my equipment before I go out. So no matter who sets up my sled, I have to do that last double check. So that's all part of my my routine. And if you're watching, you'll probably see me do like the same thing at the truck. And that's part of my like safety check. And I don't know, like, you know, basketball players shooting free throws, dribbles the same amount, spins the ball the same way,
right.
And, you know, bounces their legs the same amount of time. That's me with the sled and the equipment. You know, this is kind of my whole routine, and I get in the groove.
It's a little bit of muscle memory building, but also, you know, like with like you said, basketball players or even hockey players or whatever, they're doing little things to get them in that zone. Some people call it superstition. Some people calling, you know, getting into the groove or into the zone. And if you do those things, do those mental checks. It's part of a sports psychology type thing, and that's the way that keeps you ready to rock and roll, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's not, you know, if you're not ready in a sprint race, you're, it's very timed, very tightly. So
right.
I want to be going, I need to run back and grab something.
In the sprint races, you could literally have just a few seconds between first and fifth or sixth place. I mean, it's literally that close sometimes. You know, I've seen at the Chugiak track, you know, a winner will have just won by a couple of seconds, and that's just amazing to me. Whereas an Iditarod or Yukon Quest or whatever, it could be several hours in between, let's say, the first and the second musher. So it's definitely a different sport altogether. Jennifer, we're just about out of time, and I want to make sure that some time to talk about whatever you're interested in. If you want to thank somebody or if you want to tell us about something that's upcoming with you guys or whatever, I want to give you sort of the floor to talk about that. Okay.
So not a lot going on at the kennel right now. It's just kind of our slow time. But right. I definitely want to thank my husband and my kids for all of their hard work. Thank my parents for all of their contributions. They're Dale and Ellie Probert. They used to race years ago. And my father-in-law, Lester Erhart, and my brother-in-law, John Erhart, and Curtis Erhart. They've all, like, lots of good information, lots of contributions, just, you know, good talks, and even Gareth Wright. I was visiting with Gareth Wright the other day, and, you know, just really enjoyable. It's just, that's a big part of it for us, you know. Just to see, like, when my dad comes to town, my parents come to town and visit, and, you know, it's really priceless seeing, like, Dale Probert and Lester Erhart just visiting, and of course it's always about dogs, you know. And just to have that, really thankful for that in our lives, in our world. And thanks to everybody who made the ISDRA Awards banquet possible. I'm glad I went. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it, and it was a last minute, okay, I'm going to go for it decision. And I'm really glad I went. It was nice to meet everybody, and wish I could have stayed longer and been there some more, but, you know, I'm glad I was able to participate in the portion I could. And yeah, I'm just, you know, really looking forward to next season. It's like a family, you know, we travel around and see other people and other teams, and that's like our extended family. And then, you know, it's kind of sad because the end of March comes and then we don't see anybody aside from keeping track on Facebook, you know. So
right.
So it was nice to see that extended family, you know, again. So looking forward to next season, and we've got a great group of young dogs that I'm really excited about and want to see what they can do next season. And yeah, just always working towards that goal, but just, you know, we really love and appreciate our dogs and all of that, everything that this lifestyle has brought to us. So just no matter where we end up finishing wise, you know, this is just, we're really blessed to live this life, you know, butterflies or not.
Right.
Oh, and I want to add, I have started a butterfly relocation program at my house. So I've caught some of these butterflies and I give them to friends who have kids who love them, and they set them free on their property that's far enough away from my property. So just so in full disclosure, no butterflies were harmed in this process.
You know, Jennifer, I had no idea that this show was going to be all about butterflies. That's so cool. That's why I like doing stuff like this. I don't prepare for these interviews. I just sort of go off the cuff. You know, some radio hosts send out lists of questions, and you kind of know exactly what the guest is going to say, pretty much verbatim, and I've never wanted to do that. So I want to thank you for sure for keeping it, you know, in that vein. We just kind of rolled with it, and I really enjoy that. So my last question to you, Jennifer, is a question that I ask a lot to our musher guests, and I may have asked you when you were on before, but could you give somebody that's just starting out, whether it's in sprint mushing or bike joring or whatever, one piece of advice, whether they're trying to run Iditarod or the Ferrandi? What would be that one piece of advice you would give to that person, whether it's a youngster or a middle-aged person with a couple of dogs? What would you say?
And this really may have been what I said the last time, but I really strongly encourage people to do your research first about the different types of mushing, because there are several, and really just start with something that is within your personal means. So I don't like to sleep out in the winter, cold, dark, whatever. So I don't do distance mushing. Great to whoever else does that. You know, that's just not my personal thing. I also have 6 kids, so my time is stretched. And so as much as I still want to run the Ferrandi and the Open North American, it is a challenge for us to put in the time to train a kennel, train to be able to race the Open North American or the Ferrandi, and to have the number of dogs, because I know how much it costs to feed them. So for us personally, what fits in my lifestyle, I love going fast. I love driving cars fast. You know, I really appreciate sleeping in a bed. So, and I love dogs. I love being around dogs. So that's the style of racing that fit my personal likes and dislikes. And so really, you know, if I got dogs to run the Iditarod, that would have been silly. So really do your research. What kind of caters to you? And there's different styles of dogs and different types of people, and making those correct matches is really critical for the survival of all aspects of the sport.
Excellent, for sure. Jennifer, how can folks follow along and keep track of you guys online?
So we're on Facebook. It's under Pro Dog Racing Kennels, and you can follow us there on Facebook. We don't have a website right now, but we try to keep that Pro Dog Racing Kennels Facebook page updated. And then we both have personal Facebook pages. It's under Carl Erhart and Jennifer Probert Erhart. Those are 2 separate ones on Facebook. So, yep, that's probably the best way.
Excellent. Jennifer, it was my pleasure to have you back on. Again, congrats to you and your family for the medals at the ISGRA ceremony, and good luck next year. And maybe, who knows, in a couple of years we'll have you back on for a 3-peat.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your contribution in doing these sort of shows and helping publicize the sport too. So thank you.
No problem. My pleasure. Have a good summer, and good luck next year, okay?
All right, thank you.
And that was an interview with Jennifer Probert Erhart here on Mushing Radio. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Did you know that Alaska Dog Works trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michelle Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska Dog Works on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.
If you like our podcast, there are a few things you can do. You can take a couple of minutes and go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also check out all of our DogWorks Radio sponsors and promotions in our show notes. Another thing you can do is go over to Facebook, like our Facebook page, and one last thing, please tell all of your friends by spreading the word about DogWorks Radio. Thank you so much for listening to us. We really appreciate you.
DogWorks Radio is produced by Robert Forto. Logo art by Angry Squirrel Studios. DogWorks Radio is produced in conjunction with KVRF 89.7 in Palmer, Alaska.
For dog training advice, you can contact Alaska Dogworks at 907-841-1686 or visit their website at alaskadogworks.com. If you have a show idea or would like to be a guest, please contact us by sending an email to live@dogworksradio.com.